Hello and welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage, on a beautiful, slightly overcast Tuesday morning. I didn't get a chance to make a video yesterday, which was my intention, but today it's all about story time. Last week, I knew there was a swap meet, the first of the season. They have them the last Sunday of every month at New England Dragway in Epping, New Hampshire. That's an hour and 20 minutes from my driveway. Gates open at 5 a.m. And I had considered loading up my Suburban and my plastic tables and going down by myself and selling some stuff. I have stuff that I don't want to part with. That's the majority of my inventory, but I do have quite a bit of good stuff that I really have no use for. I've acquired over time, and it's one of the situations where, on a onesie-twosie basis, occasionally I post things on Marketplace. Used to be Craigslist, now Marketplace is where it's at. And sell stuff like that, but the atmosphere, this is only the third swap meet that I've attended to sell stuff, and every time it's worked out pretty well. Maybe the fourth. Anyway, I haven't gone to that many. Usually I just hoard stuff and don't get rid of it. So that was my intention, to just go down by myself, and then the end of the week, my buddy Ken, my former backup man, my enabler, who's always hooking me up with incredible deals on stuff. He's really good at finding stuff, probably better than I am online and whatnot. He's good at finding really quality stuff and finding deals on it. Asked if I wanted to ride down with him because he was going to go sell some stuff. And that sounded like fun. So I kind of abandoned my idea of loading up the Suburban. Briefly, long story short, I pulled out of my driveway fully loaded Sunday morning at 3:40 a.m. And I showed up. I was going to meet him at the entrance of New England Dragway at 5 o'clock. I pulled in like 4:59, stretched my legs a little bit, and I could see there was a long line. There's an access road to the left of the property that they use quite a bit for big shows, for additional parking. It was backed all the way up to the road. But fortunately, Ken got there about 5:04, and the line was already moving and halfway in the place. Those 4 minutes got us a good parking spot on the grass. The early birds ended up in the mud. Just the way it worked out, we had no idea. I had no idea until a few hours into the swap meet. The advantage of going with a friend is when we got to the point where maybe the initial rush was gone, I had most of my items marked. He could watch my table while I wandered around a little bit, and I could do the same for him. So we both got to do a little bit of shopping, but mostly it was all about selling. I couldn't help but mention to him, after hunched over old man after hunched over old man came to buy stuff, where are the young people? It's sad. Occasionally a young guy would come up and I'd give him a really good deal on whatever I was selling and say, hey, get your friends involved. And he said the same thing. They're just not into it. But at least, a few of them were, and I hope as time goes on, the great sport of hot rodding, which I'm sure it will continue. But I don't know to what degree. It doesn't seem like, every kid's into it these days. When I was a kid, from Hot Wheels on up, that's all I thought about. I watch cars drive by. I was fortunate, I grew up in born in 1965, but by the time I could remember most things, it was, at the decline of the muscle car, but there was still a lot of cool vehicles on the road. So I got to see them out and about in their natural habitat on the road. This whole video is going to be nothing but stories, but I remember waiting for the school bus, I believe, and down at the end of our road was General Electric Corporation. They had a factory down there, and there was a guy that worked down there, had a Plymouth Superbird. It was half rotted out. He ran it year round. Most of the time it had snow tires on it. And I remember it sitting, down by the bridge at an old filling station for sale for pennies. If I only knew back then what you know now. But so back to the swap meet. On my table was 95% used stuff, but good. And on Ken's tables, he had pretty much all brand new stuff. He had an old 60s style, maybe even 50s cod table, the little green ones with the pencil thin legs. He had 4 crankshafts on that thing. And the spot we were in, it didn't even sink in hardly. If we were down further, if we'd got there exactly and got in line early, it would have been wallowing in the mud. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. So I sold a bunch of stuff. I had already, earlier in the week, Ken had contacted me. I don't know if I wanted to buy these brand new Comp Magnum Elite rockers. And I did, from one of my small block Chevys. So I already owed him some money. And a few weeks ago, I picked up the one-piece seal 350 block with the aftermarket caps on it that I'm using as a dummy in the 56 wagon right now. And in that deal, I have a set of 5/7 length connecting rods and a set of 383 pistons, but I didn't have a crankshaft. And of Ken's crankshaft, he had crankshafts, rods, and pistons in several different combinations. If he had a 3.75 stroke one-piece seal crank, which he didn't, and that's not super common, but not uncommon at the same time. But he did have a one-piece seal Eagle forged 348 stroke, which is stock 350 Chevy, for a 5/7 rod. And he had a set of KB pistons, 30 over, for a 5/7 rod 350. So that's another combination. Long story short, I gave Ken all my money. Everything I sold that morning was just junk that I'm not going to miss and didn't want to bring home. And I turned it into something that I wanted. So that's the best part. I could have just saved the money, put it in the bank, and piddled it away here and there. But this was a really good deal. And I was glad to have another combination. I'm still looking, and I could buy a new one. The forged cranks, even this Eagles and Scats, are $800 or $900. So I'd probably put a cast crank in it. Those are about $260. And likely never have a problem because I'm not going to be racing it a whole lot if I did. Now, testimony, I know there's a lot better stuff on the market, but I had an Eagle crank and rods and just off-the-shelf J&E SRP pistons in my nitrous 572. I didn't build it as a nitrous motor even. They weren't nitrous pistons, but I had to run a 300 shot to even be mid-pack in the top sportsman class. And I made 140, 50 runs, no problem. I had a diaper on it. You have to for the class. But I never even really worried about the lower end. And I spun at 8,200 in the traps. Anyway, so I guess the Eagle and Scat stuff is okay. Everybody uses it. It is what it is. So this forged crank was an excellent deal. And I'll probably take that block, and because I have all this stuff, build a 355, a 30 over 4-inch bore small block. The only downside is I got to find somebody to balance it. I don't dare to put it together without balancing. Part of me wants to just to experiment because it's all relatively inexpensive stuff. Then again, too, this is, if I paid full price, a $900 crankshaft. So either way, that's slightly in the future. I already have a 377 and a 421 that I'm putting together, so I didn't need another small block, but that's the way my brain works. Once I get something and have taken ownership of it, notched in my head, compartmentalized are the things I'm going to need to make it something. So I did wander around through all the mud. There was about 5 rows, pretty long. It was a pretty big turnout. And I didn't find a whole lot to buy. I did buy this pretty cool drive shaft loop, bolts on where the transmission mount goes. doesn't fit every application. I was kind of digging the ring, even though it's kind of small, so your alignment would have to be pretty good, but for 20 bucks, I couldn't pass it up. That's the only thing I bought other than buying stuff from my buddy Ken. So yesterday was nothing but errands. I still haven't finished unpacking the Suburban, but for the rest of the day, I need to get this junk off my bench and do some transmission related stuff. So I hope you had an adventure last weekend and have told somebody your story. Until next time, which is only a couple days, I'm sure, I'll be looking at you again. Take her easy.